Hi, welcome to Ask Jeff, that riveting show, that program that everybody watches because they want to know. They're on a quest to learn, a quest to know things. And so Ask Jeff is the clearinghouse for that. We've covered a variety of things. I was about to say that this is an unusual question, but we've answered a lot of unusual questions in our 3-season epic saga of asking questions, some spiritual, some not so spiritual. This one might be quasi-spiritual. I think it's based upon the fact that some people know a little bit about my life. I had a daughter who was going to school in New York City for a number of years, and so on trips to visit with her, I became one of those guys that would frequent Broadway shows. The Great White Way, as it were, the place where Broadway magic happens. And I'd go see musicals and dramas and comedies. And for a few years, there were a few years that anything that was popular on Broadway, I got to experience. Now, I know that some of you find that very hard to believe that I'm cultured and refined that way, but I'm a man of the theater. And because of that, I think this is the question that came. It probably was intended to be silly. The question was there really a Phantom of the Opera? And of course the answer is yes, because I've seen the musical, and probably you have too. If not, you've heard the music. But then I started thinking about that. But the Phantom of the Opera was based upon a book. So what we saw on Broadway was based upon a book. So I got a copy of the book. And after I got a copy of the book, I read it, and this is how the book starts. It begins with this line, and those of you who have read the book will know this line. The opera ghost really existed. What was he talking about? So that then prompted me to dig just a little bit further. And so here's the answer to the question that was supposed to be just a goofball question. If you remember the Phantom of the Opera, it is set in Paris, and there is a lake in the building's bowels, if you will. That's where Eric, the Phantom, lives. The creepy lake, though, believe it or not, actually exists. When laying the foundations in 1861, it came to light that the building would be set above an arm of the river. And so after trying and failing to pump the site dry, what they did is they devised a large stone water tank that was secured and covered by a small grate. And the way that this grate works is the pressure prevents any more water from rising up to the foundation, and the tank helps stabilize the building. And so believe it or not, the Paris Opera House is really built over not a lake, but basically a pool of water that comes out of the river that runs through Paris. Also featured in the Phantom of the Opera is that amazing scene where the chandelier drops from the ceiling. On May 21st, 1896, one of the newspaper headlines read this: 500 kilos on a concierge's head. It referred to an incident where that evening in the theater, a woman had died and 2 had been injured after electrical faults caused a 360 kilogram counterweight to fall from the chandelier above the audience during one of the performances. If you've seen the Phantom of the Opera, one of the high points of that musical, that great chandelier falls as part of a distraction that was needed so he could kidnap Christine and take her prisoner and drag her down into the bowels of the Paris Opera House. And so, that line from the book, the opera ghost really existed, basically is one of those lines that says the following book, doesn't say this is my addition, is a work of fact, part fiction. And the author then, of course, has taken what were 2 facts and events that happened and wove them into a story that built upon a legend that the opera house really was haunted. So at the end of the day, the question, was there a Phantom of the Opera? The answer is only on Broadway or on the big screen. Is the book based on fact, on some facts, but not facts about a phantom? And does it make the book and the musical fun? Of course it does. So the answer to the question is sort of, kind of. How about that? That's my answer. I'm sticking with it. That's this edition of Ask Jeff. continue to send in those questions. We'll do our best to answer them, make you happy, and see what we can come up with. So until next time, keep those questions coming, and we'll do our best to answer them.